Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to invite Mr. Rashid Sharif, who's our CEO, COO, and Alim, Hafiz al-Quran, and he has completed his Alimiyat from three madrasas from Darul Ulum. And he's also an MBA graduate, and he's the first employee of Reba. He has been one of the backbone of Reba from the day zero. And I would like to invite the only backbone of and I would like to request Rashid Bhai to start with Qiraat and then take over the proceedings.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the most beneficent, the most merciful, owner of the day of judgment. It is you alone that we worship and you alone from whom we seek help. Guide us to the straight path, the path of those who you have bestowed your grace upon, not the path of those who have earned your wrath, nor those who have gone astray. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I am Rashid Sharif. I will be your host for today, inshallah. And I would like to welcome each and every one of you and thank you for coming and being here on time and waiting patiently for us to start the program. Unfortunately, there was a slight delay due to traffic conditions and general Hyderabad conditions. And so inshallah, without any further ado, I would like to set the grounds, why we have called you here and what it is that we want from you and what it is that we want to build together. So as you might have seen in the poster and the registration link to which all of you have accepted our invitation, that the heading is Building an Ethical Financial Ecosystem. So what is the ethical financial ecosystem and why is it important? So as all of you are aware, Islam is not just related to worship alone, but Islam is a complete way of life. And it has teachings for us in all spheres of life. It's not restricted to the masjid or even to our homes, but it also tells us how to behave in the market, how to behave at work, how to behave in all the transactions that we do on a day-to-day basis. So, and one of the most important places where Islam has teachings is with regards to finance. That is giving of loans, taking of loans, and money transactions, especially where credit is involved. And the teachings of Islam in this area are very strict, and it's like you cannot ignore that, right? So Allah has prohibited riba in all forms. So riba is one of the deadly sins or one of the major sins in Islam, and since the current financial ecosystem is completely based on riba and ribawi transactions, it is important for us, or rather it is compulsory for Muslims in the situation that we are, that we should try to develop an alternative or a system that can allow us and future generations to avoid riba and be able to grow the businesses and be able to meet our financial goals without indulging in riba. Right, so that is the reason why we have gathered all of you, that we feel that we have something to share, our last 12 years of experience, and we want all of you to also join this cause, so and become a part of this ecosystem. So when we had the registration form, we had a last section called reference, comments or queries, and one of the brothers left a note there. I'm not sure if it was a comment or a query, saying that how can an individual build an ecosystem? And if it is a query, it's a very pertinent query, and it's exactly what we want to address here today, that how can each of us contribute and become part of this ecosystem that we are trying to build together, that will benefit us and ensure that we are practicing our religion in the financial matters, and also ensure that our future generations also will be able to practice their religion and not have to compromise when it comes to financial matters. So alhamdulillah, we have a great list of speakers today, people who have been in this field and people who have been watching this field and have, pioneers, people who have studied in detail about these aspects, and we'll be hearing from them inshallah. So I think we can directly start with the first presentation. The first speaker for today is Dr. Ebaad Momin, and he is a director of Rahabar Financial Services. He's also heading other initiatives in the field like Mount Judy Ventures, which is a VC fund, and Step Up Ventures, which is into incubation of startups. And he's a PhD in Islamic finance. So I would like to welcome Dr. Ebaad Momin to take it forward.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعليه أصحابه أجمعين. Jazakallah khair, brothers. Thank you very much for making the time. Generally, we are used to doing this in Bangalore, that we start with an apology because of the traffic conditions. This is a first for Hyderabad, I think. कि हैदराबाद में भी ट्रैफिक होती है? होती है? अच्छा ठीक है चलिए. Okay. So thank you very much, Rashid, for the introduction. Before I jump into my presentation, what I would like to do is steal a little bit of his thunder and try and tell you what we are trying to achieve and what we have been able to do over the last 10 to 12 years in a very short, in one slide. Okay? So what we were told was this, that you cannot do Islamic banking in India. And when I looked around in the world, a number of scholars were Indian, outside India. A number of practitioners were all Indians. So what happened there, right? And when I spoke to them, whether it was Standard Chartered Bank, whether it was HSBC, whether it was Najatullah Siddiqui Saab, etc., and the name, the list goes on and on, I realized that we did not think out of the box, right? कि भाई इंडिया में अगर इस्लामिक बैंकिंग अलाउड नहीं है तो डज इट मीन इस्लामिक फाइनेंस अलाउड नहीं है, राइट? एंड वी रियलाइज दैट नहीं, इट इज़ अलाउड, इट्स जस्ट दैट पीपल हैव गॉट सेंसिटिविटीज टुवर्ड्स द नेम, राइट? तो अगर किसी चीज़ को हम अलग नाम से अगर बुलाएंगे, डज इट मेक इट नॉन शरिया कंप्लाइंट? नो. Right? So if I call equity and not mudaraba or musharaka, it does not make it any less Sharia compliant. So what this lot of people did was this, that we thought out of the box and we said, can we try and develop structures which are compliant with the Indian legal system, compliant with the Indian regulations, and compliant with Sharia as well. And we realize there's a lot of overlap. कि अगर overlap में ही अगर हमको काम करना है, there are a lot of things which we can do. And if we sit still and say, भाई कुछ नहीं हो सकता, तो भी कुछ नहीं हो सकता, right? So what we did was, Sharif Saab, he was a chief technology officer, Sun Microsystem, heavily paid gentleman in the US, came back to India. All these brothers who are sitting here, by God's grace, left all their jobs. I was in Malaysia, in Dubai. My fellow partner, I wish you could have heard from him, Ali Sharif. He's an alumnus of London School of Economics, Harvard, IIM Ahmedabad. And after all that, he's come back to do this. That we're going to find solutions which work with the Indian legal system and find solutions which work with Sharia. And we're going to use the world's best practices to be able to create solutions for all sections of society. We're not going to create a solution only for the super rich. We're not going to create a solution only for the poor, but for the whole strata of people, right? So this is, in short, what we have been up to. We've created 4 organizations, Lifeline Foundations, which serves absolutely destitute, the poor, whereby instead of calling it cash waqf, we called it a trust, and we said interest-free microfinance. We've been able to serve in about 35 slums across Bangalore, where ladies in group of 5 to 15 come and they are given funding, and whatever funding they take, they equate it into installments and give it back to us, right? So that was first. Second, it went on to Rehbar, then it went on to a venture capital fund called Mount Judy Ventures, and then it went on to an incubator called Step Up Ventures. तो ये हम लोगों ने पिछले 12 साल में किया है, राइट? राशिद, मैं फितरत से वाकिफ़ हूँ, and unfortunately I can't stop selling, so Rashid has told me don't sell. So I'm going to try to keep my presentation very macro and ensure that we touch upon aspects which are very common for all of us, right? So I have covered a few aspects like common financial mistakes which all of us are doing, right? So one of the most common mistakes which all of us do is ignorance and procrastination, right? All the younger brothers here, relatively younger brothers, think that 40 साल के बाद में करेंगे, अभी थोड़ा सा बाइक ले लेते हैं, गाड़ी ले लेते हैं, फॉरेन हॉलिडे चले जाते हैं, and that decision about saving and trying to invest never comes. 40 का 50 हो जाता है आदमी, and then जो है वो retirement age आ जाती है, right? So procrastination is a very common mistake which each one of us goes through. Even me, right? And this is generally for the younger people. So start thinking now, right? There's no other time but now. Even if you're saving like $1,000, brother, very young, mashallah, whatever you're saving, start investing. Now, things have become so easy with, SIPs and whatnot, that saving and, planning for the future has become very easy. So start doing that. 2, and this is for the businessmen, and I've been in this industry advising businessmen and family offices and institutions for years and years together. But people don't have a differentiation between ये मेरा business का पैसा है और ये मेरा personal पैसा है, ये मेरे family का पैसा है. Now what happens there is the following, and this happens with the biggest of businessmen, right? This is not only small businessmen, and this happens with the smallest. तो microfinance में भी जाएंगे ना, तो ladies they say ये पैसा यहाँ से निकाल के जो है वो स्कूल की फीस भर दी और ये वाला डिफ़ॉल्ट हो गया, right? तो this is a common problem which we need to resolve, right? For the following reason. Even if you are like one of the largest entrepreneur, right? और तुमने अगर वो segregate नहीं किया है कि ये मेरा business का पैसा है या मेरा ये personal family का पैसा है, God forbid you pass away, somebody passes away, some sanctions happen and your business money gets frozen. What happens to your family? So it's very essential that whatever you may have, you may be a small businessman, carve some money out for keeping it for investments and just for the family, that in case you are not around, this is taken care. 3, underestimating life's contingencies. Tawakkal is good, right? But tie the camel, right? लोग कॉर्पस नहीं बनाते, नॉमिनेशंस नहीं करते, बीवियों के नाम पे पैसा नहीं रखते, राइट? विद द व्यू दैट कि हाँ मुझको तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला, राइट? एंड कोविड हैज़ एक्चुअली टॉट अस दैट इवन द मोस्ट हेल्दीएस्ट ऑफ पीपल में ड्रॉप डेड, राइट? सो एंश्योर दैट you plan for life's contingencies, and I'll try to give you a few examples how you can. And this is the most common one. कुछ ना कुछ investment कोई ना कोई कर लेता है. Investing without a plan is the most problematic one, whereby these are the things which one does, right? Not understanding the risks associated with different investments. तो हीरा गोल्ड की भी रिस्क एक ही होती है, टाटा म्यूचुअल फंड की भी रिस्क एक ही होती है, और रहबर की भी एक होती है, माउंट जूडी वेंचर्स की भी एक होती है. दैट्स नॉट द केस, राइट? You need to understand that there are risks emanating from वेरियस इन्वेस्टमेंट्स, उसकी क्या रिस्क होती है और उसके हिसाब से हम कहाँ बैठते हैं, हमको वो देखना है कि भाई हम कौन सा इन्वेस्टमेंट यूज़ कर सकते हैं. एंड आई विल ट्राई टू गिव यू माई 2 cents अबाउट दीज रिस्क्स. इन्वेस्टिंग ऑन इमोशनल ग्राउंड्स, शरिया कंप्लायंट हलाल किसी ने कहा तो हम घुस जाते हैं, राइट. एंड दिस इज कमिंग इन फ्रॉम अ सिटी of Bangalore where IMA happened and to a city of Hira Gold, right? So when somebody says halal, we forget everything else, right? Don't do that, right? Even when Rashid comes up to you, do your basic this thing of, does it make commercial sense for me to invest in this investment proposition? If it does, do invest. If it doesn't make sense for you, don't invest, please, right? Herd mentality. मेरे बासु वाले ने बहुत पैसे बना लिए. And that's a big issue, right? Not looking beyond traditional investments, right? And thankfully, because of education now, things are changing. But the only investments which we do or used to do is real estate and gold. A third asset बहुत दूर दूर तक नहीं था. But because of good work of people like Shabir Saab, at least equity markets आए, mutual funds आए, लोगों ने डाला. So do that, because see, हर चीज़ के लिए एक इन्वेस्टमेंट नीड के लिए आपके पास में एक प्रोडक्ट होता है. गोल्ड को हर चीज़ के लिए इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते आप, या रियल एस्टेट को हर चीज़ के लिए इस्तेमाल नहीं कर सकते हैं. कल अगर ज़रूरत पड़ेगी तो रियल एस्टेट बेच नहीं पाएंगे आप लोग, राइट. सो रियल एस्टेट हैज़ इट्स प्लेस, गोल्ड हैज़ इट्स प्लेस, म्यूचुअल फंड हैज़ इट्स प्लेस, माउंट जूडी वेंचर्स हैज़ इट्स प्लेस. Lack of diversification and rebalancing is what I mentioned. If I have time, I'll stress on investing in Ponzi schemes if I have the time. Let me know. Mike Cooper. Okay, so this is a rough chart which I've made for people who invest into mutual funds. You would have seen this chart before. What I want to do here is actually tell you that हर investment एक risk के साथ नहीं होता, right? Do not evaluate gold the same way as you evaluate Mount Judy Ventures, right? And a low risk on the left hand side and on the high risk on the right hand side. आज के लिए gold blue है, just for easy purposes, right? So generally gold is not expected to go down. Now because of gold trading, because of ETFs and whatnot, it can go down, but ideally it is a store of wealth. So generally सबसे low risk, even sovereigns go for gold in case of, you know, volatile situations and so on and so forth. So gold going up. And what I've done is I've tried to underline a few where you'll see that these underlined ones are, there are Sharia compliant options for people like you and me who want to you know, remain within the lines of our value system. तो हमारे पास में options हैं कि भाई gold ETF में अगर मुझे पैसे डालने हैं तो Sharia compliant gold ETF है. It may not be stamped as Sharia compliant, but it is there, right? And obviously, if you buy physical gold, there's no problem there. Debt, bonds, deposits, sukuk. For people who actually have investments abroad, sukuk is like a deposit. It's like a bond, right? Islamic bond, जहाँ पे आप पैसे रखो और आपको उसके ऊपर प्रॉफिट मिलता है, छोटा अमाउंट ऑफ प्रॉफिट मिलता है, समझो 2% 3% मगर मिलता है, राइट. अलग अलग कंपनीज के सुकूक होते हैं. मूविंग फर्दर अप द रिस्क कर्व, रियल एस्टेट, राइट. सो इफ यू रियलाइज आई हैव नॉट पुट रियल एस्टेट हियर, राइट, बिकॉज इट इज नॉट द लीस्ट रिस्कीएस्ट ऑफ एसेट. देयर इज रिस्क एसोसिएटेड विथ इट, राइट. There is physical real estate, and then there is REITs, there are you know, joint ownership platforms, etc. etc. रहबर के जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं, दे फिट इन समवेयर हियर, राइट. तो मैं ये नहीं कहूँगा कि सबसे लीस्ट रिस्की है. देर इज रिस्क इन अ रहबर इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑल्सो, इट फिट्स समवेयर देयर. देन देर इज इक्विटी, देर इज प्राइवेट इक्विटी या वेंचर कैपिटल जो मैं करता हूँ. एंड लास्ट इज डेरिवेटिव्स. डेरिवेटिव्स में कोई शरिया कंप्लाइंट ऑप्शंस नहीं है आज के तरीके में. तो कोई अगर आपको बोले कि डेरिवेटिव्स कर लो तो थोड़ा सा सोच के रहिएगा कि शरिया कंप्लाइंट है कि नहीं. अभी आजकल वो क्रिप्टो वगैरह भी है. So just think before you invest. Can we come to this slide a little later if that's okay? And just keep me on the timing, please. Right? This is something about why should a person and how does a person plan for life's events. क्योंकि क्या होता है कि हम लोगों को लगता है कि भाई तुम बोल के तो जा रहे हो कि भाई प्लान करो अपने लाइफ के इवेंट के बारे में, मगर करूँ तो कैसे करूँ, बिकॉज देर आर नो शरिया कंप्लाइंट इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑप्शंस विच आर अवेलेबल फॉर मी. सो लेट मी गिव यू एन आइडिया. ओके, how do you ensure that business cycles, family disputes and freeze on assets is taken care of, right? This is a very clear risk, right? उसके लिए जो है आप segregation of assets करिए. business के assets अलग, family assets different. On a smaller investor basis, please do your nominations, right? Nominations are everywhere, from mutual funds to shares to bank accounts, to ensure that कभी अगर business cycle goes fat, you don't get caught on the wrong foot. In case for goal planning, how do you plan for short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals? Like, let me give you an example of short-term goals. Short-term goal is बीमारी आजारी घर में. How do you plan for that? For that, you have to keep liquid assets, right? But if you keep liquid assets, उसके ऊपर आपको return नहीं बनेगा, right? So how do you plan? There is Rahbar. Rahbar gives you options to immediately withdraw, immediately liquidable investments. Low risk, you can also park it in deposits and gold. Medium term investments, like example, you're planning for your child's education 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line. Put it in relatively liquid instruments like equity, or you can even try real estate. Long term, you can look for private equity, venture capital, real estate. How do you plan for emergencies like illness? Ideally, a lot of scholars have allowed general insurance as Sharia compliant, right? Should you believe the dalil, try and see if it works for you. For a lot of people, it does work. Take that. There are also some things called memberships. जैसे आपका insurance होता है, वैसे you can take up a membership of a particular hospital. Now, if something goes wrong, you can actually flash your membership. It's like your club membership card. You flash your membership and you can actually get discount, or you can get other thing on that. There are players like Even करके एक है, EVEN, not stamped Sharia compliant, but more or less Sharia compliant there. Plum, Even. Emergencies like death, how do you plan for it? You can't plan for it, but at least you can ensure that in case you're not there, these kind of things can actually help you out in terms of structure planning and in case of life insurance. So now let me go over what we do and what we need from you, right? ये है normal financial institution, right? Normal financial institution के पास पैसे जो है ये लोगों के पास आते हैं. Institutions and normal investors like you and me, right? Deposits लोग डालते हैं. आप एक्सिस बैंक में, HSBC में, ICICI बैंक में, आप सेविंग्स बैंक अकाउंट में रखते हो पैसे, वो बैंक इस्तेमाल करता है, right? डिपॉजिट्स रखते हैं लोग, वो उसको इस्तेमाल होता है. करंट अकाउंट में रखते हैं हम 0% पे, वो इस्तेमाल होता है. RBI से लोग बैंक्स बोरो करते हैं, इंटर बैंक बोरोइंग्स होती है, कन्वेंशनल डेट होता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स होते हैं ये इंस्टीट्यूशन में. अब क्या होता है, ये जो पैसा है, ये पैसा बैंक किसी और को, एंटरप्रेन्योर को देता है कि भाई तुम अपना बिजनेस बढ़ाओ ऑन व्हाटएवर इंटरेस्ट रेट. दिस इज हाउ इट इज, राइट? बट फॉर पीपल लाइक अस, राइट, financial institutions like us, there is only one way of accessing capital, which is people investing with us. If that does not happen, there is no money to give anybody else, right? So the point is this, that we have built Rahbar, which is roughly about 150 odd crores, Mount Judy Ventures, which is roughly about 200 crores, Step Up Ventures, which is roughly about 10 odd crores. All of this has been built with simple, small amounts of money. Rashid, that gentleman, I really hope that the gentleman is here. How can one build it? There are about 1,000 to 2,000 people who've built these institutions, right? It is very small. 200 crore, 500 crore ज़्यादा नहीं है, right? But it is a start. उससे जो है, we take a lot of pride in saying we funded ID Fresh Food, we funded Fresh to Home, we funded oncology companies, we've funded so many companies, and we get a lot of pride in that. Start तो करें, right? So when we started things, you know, people जेब में जो पैसा था ला के दे दिए कि भाई ये this is what it is, right? It was on the hindsight, it was a stupid decision, unfortunately, but because of that we are standing here, right? And we request your help to be able to bridge this gap. अगर पैसे नहीं रहेंगे तो हम intermediation नहीं कर पाएंगे, right? And this is in it, what is in it for you? एक, हम सदका नहीं मांग रहे, right? We are not asking you for alms. This is zakat पैसे नहीं चाहिए हमें, right? We are saying this money is getting great returns, right? Rehbar is giving you fixed income returns of roughly about 9 to 10%. Mount Judy Ventures is on its path to give 25% plus, etc., etc. So we want you to invest your money, right? वो बैंक में सरते मत रहने दीजिए, right? Participation in other businesses, new age businesses, right? Can anybody put up their hand who can say that they've invested in a new age business which is worth 500 crores, apart from Miraj? Nobody? Anybody who's invested in a business which is upwards of 500 crores, apart from your own business, right? See, this is the problem, right? How are we going to create the next generation big businesses, right? If we don't invest, we'll not be able to do that. And we're creating this mechanism for you to be able to be part of these businesses, right? I mean, just the bragging right in itself is enough to say that I was one of the first investors in Mount Judy Ventures, or say ID Fresh Food, or Fresh to Home, right? That's what we want to bring to you. Next generation's involvement in venture support, right? A lot of elder brothers are struggling with the newer generation कि भाई अगली generation करेगी क्या, right? And we need ideas to be able to give them that, listen, you know, kid, I had invested into these 10 businesses. Do you like any of these businesses? I'll get you an internship there, or I'll get you to start working with them, right? If you want, you can actually start a business with them, right? So there are so many people, I mean, people like the Razak family from Prestige, right? Kim's Hospitals, forget Indians, Saudi families. They say we want a part of India, we want our next generation to be part of those businesses. Saudi say, India, kyun? Because they want to be part of these businesses, right? So you'll be part of these businesses. Building a legacy, right? Everybody wants to build a legacy. They don't want to go away without people remembering us. Will you be remembered as a person who invested in a company and ensured that cancer treatment was done better? Yes, everybody wants to. And if you can do it at 1 lakh of rupees or 2 lakh of rupees, why wouldn't you? And this is giving you return. ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई सदका दिया मैंने. Institution building and commercial philanthropy. I think everybody, 5 minutes, everybody would agree there is a lack of institution building in our community, right? How do we ensure that we build financial institutions, philanthropic institutions? Because scales will not be achieved if you do it alone. If you do philanthropy alone, after you, there is a good chance that that philanthropy will not happen, right? So what we're saying is that let's get together, let's create that ecosystem to be able to do this in an institutional manner, not in a कि भाई आज कर दिया, दो कर दिया and stuff like that, right? Impact on the larger community development, and this I've kept last because this money will go nowhere. Money आपके पास में ही आएगा, right? So there are so many of our investors gave us money for starters, and then I said, यार तभी पैसा था मेरे पास में तो मैंने आपको पैसा दिया, मगर आज ज़रूरत है बिजनेस में, can you invest? So you will be the first person I come to. It's because of you I'm existent, right? So if I'm existent because of somebody, I will go 200% your way to be able to help you out in your business, right? That does not mean that the person has a right that he's going to get money, right? All the policies, procedures are going to be followed in such a manner that it is an unbiased investment decision. Bang on time? Ponzi? Ponzi? Ponzi. Ponzi scheme. I wanted to ask how many have invested in a Ponzi scheme. I know that nobody's going to put up their hands, but theek. So again, from a city of Ponzi's to another city of Ponzi's, how do you identify a Ponzi? It's not very difficult, frankly, right? And do you all know what a Ponzi scheme is? Most of you all? Ponzi scheme is a Ponzi scheme. That somebody actually builds up a facade कि भाई बहुत कंपनी बहुत अच्छी कर रही है और उसको थोड़े रिटर्न्स देते रहते, थोड़े क्या बहुत ज़्यादा रिटर्न्स देते रहते हैं on the basis that somebody else is keep coming, और जो आता रहता है, जो नए लोग आते रहते हैं उसका पैसा इस्तेमाल करके पुराने वाले लोगों को दिया जाता है, right? This is how a multi-level scheme gets created, right? Now how do you spot it? One, extremely high return with little risk. मैं गोल्ड को पिघलाऊंगा और गोल्ड डस्ट खरीदती हूँ मैं वहाँ से और उसको मैं पिघलाती हूँ और बार बनाती हूँ और बेचती हूँ. नो रिस्क, राइट? I mean we are smarter than that, right? So extremely higher returns. Generally businesses में जो है एक आध साल को जो है सुपर ऑप्टिमल रिटर्न मिलता है, मगर वो साल बाय साल कंटिन्यू नहीं होता. Anything which actually is given you more than 15-20% return, be wary. Even if I am the person on the other side promising you this return, please be wary that I could be a Ponzi scheme, right? So be aware if somebody is promising you higher returns with little risk. Business model is too good to be true, right? कि भाई गोल्ड डस्ट अगर कोई खरीद सकता और उसको पिघला के अगर ब्रिक बना सकता और बेच सकता तो फिर क्या था, right? Consistent flow of returns regardless of market conditions. ऊपर जाए नीचे जाए 40% 50% देते ही रहेंगे वो आपको, irrespective, right? Investments are not been registered with any entity. This is a very critical one, right? Investments are regulated by authorities, right? Securities Exchange Board of India, Reserve Bank of India. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि they set out the policies and processes to protect a investor. अगर आपका पैसा कहीं गया तो आप उनके पास में जा सकते हैं और उनसे आप बोल सकते हो कि भाई इनको जो है इन्होंने हमसे पैसे लिए. To try to understand, and you will know that most of these Ponzi schemes will not be registered anywhere but just an ROC company, right? This is very important, right? When you ask them how do you make the money, right? I had gone to IMA, right? One of the Ponzi schemes, and he said, we buy when the market goes down and sell when the market goes up. I said, yaar, Warren Buffett can't do that consistently. How have you all been able to do it, right? So generally there is a lack of transparency. One very critical thing which unfortunately I did not put it there is audited financials, right? कोई अगर बोल रहा है कि मेरा बिजनेस इतना बड़ा है तो उनको बोलो बैलेंस शीट, प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट ला के दीजिए. एंड यू विल हैव रियलाइज ऑन द हाइंड साइड, अगर आप हीरा की देखें या IMA की देखें, आपको रियलाइज होगा कि भाई कहाँ हैं वो एसेट्स विच दे टॉकिंग अबाउट, राइट? सो अंडरस्टैंड दैट दीज कंपनीज विल बी ऑडिटेड बाय Chamanlal Chindi and Company, right? Will be audited by simpleton chartered accountants whom you'll give money and they will make whatever balance sheet you want, right? So you try to get audited results, audited financials, and frankly it's not very difficult to get audited financials nowadays. It's available for a fee of 200 rupees or 500 rupees, you can get it, right? You are encouraged not to withdraw your money, lastly, right? So these are typical, red lights need to go on in case you see any of this. It could be possible that a genuine investment also does this, but not all of it, right? Genuine investment will be somewhere 1 or 2, but this is to give you an idea of how a Ponzi scheme works. Thank you very much for bearing with me. Alhamdulillah, that's all I have for this evening. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.